Hey now! What is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and we are back with Smallville Rewind, episode 4 of season 1, entitled X Ray. This is one of the cooler episodes, especially early on with Smallville, where this is where Clark starts to develop new powers. I love this aspect of Smallville in the early years, where Clark doesn't have all of his powers. When you think of Superman, right? When you think of Superman as a character, a lot of people say he's too powerful, he's too this, he's too that, he has too many powers. But when he's a teenager, and when he hasn't developed all of these powers yet, normally you don't get to truly express how cool each and every one of these powers are because he normally has all of them. I like that this show can take one episode, built it all around the one power, treat that one power like it's super cool, and then going forward, he will have it. So this episode begins very weird, very out there, very crazy. Lex Luthor seemingly is robbing a bank. And sure, rewatching it, I remember what was happening, but I do remember the first time I saw this thinking, what the hell is going on here? Why is Lex, of all people, the richest guy in Smallville, robbing a bank? And I love the image of Rosenbaum, Lex running out of the bank down the street with his bag full of cash. Of course, he bumps into Clark Kent, because who else? Clark is like, what's going on? Lex just throws him like across the street, super strong. And this is where Clark's X-ray vision first kicks in, where it happens. He can see the bones of this person, see that it's laced with kryptonite. We cut to Tina Greer, a brand new character who's played by Lizzie Kaplan. And I feel like Tina Greer, the character, is one of the better Media Freak of the Week type villains. And maybe I'm partial because of Lizzie Kaplan. I really like her as an actress. She's really good. Seen her in so many things. Cloverfield, Mean Girls. But this was before all of that. Like, this was probably one of the bigger things she had done at the time. And I thought she does a great job. And she's also the first female media freak, and so I think there's something to be said about that. This would have benefited, her character specifically, would have benefited from being in multiple episodes. I kind of wish that we had seen her beforehand, even if it was just as Lana's friend for like a one-off scene, because you see that she's the shapeshifter. She was the one pretending to be Lex. The scene where she turns into Lex, like her face turns into Lex's face in front of her mom, was very creepy. Like, the effects, I don't think the effects were bad, but it also looked off-putting. Like, it didn't quite look 100% polished, which made it look creepier. The mother is not for her daughter doing this, using the powers for this. They're struggling over the money. The mom falls down the stairs and breaks her neck and dies. So many people, so many parents die in Smallville. And I like that Tina at first is freaking out and goes to call the cops, but then, like, she looks in the mirror. I can't tell if she's thinking, I'm fucked because they'll think I did it, or I just robbed a bank, so this is very dangerous for me. She opts to be evil. She opts to say, screw this. The Kents, Jonathan and Martha, are talking to Clark about the Lex robbing the bank thing and how it doesn't make sense, how weird it is. And I love that Lex shows up to the Kents' place. Now, sure, he later says that he saw in the report that Clark was a witness, so he's asking Clark questions. But I like the idea that Lex actually went here because he wanted to sort of show his innocence. He knows that Jonathan doesn't like him. Even Clark was trying to say that there had to be another explanation, another reason for what was going on here. So I like that maybe Lex wanted to make sure that Clark didn't believe that he did it. Clark is in gym class with Pete, and Clark's X-ray vision kicks in again. He can't control it at this point. It just comes and goes. It just happens. And the effect of Clark looking at Pete, and Pete, you see like his veins and his like tissue underneath his skin. Very freaky, very gross. Clark falls off the rope, which I used to hate in gym class when they used to try to have us climb that rope, because I did not have the muscle mass or the strength in order to climb the ropes. It was the worst activity ever. But Clark falls, and when he sits up, he realizes that he's X-ray visioning the women's locker room. And the cheesy grin that Tom Welling has on his face, and the staring that he's doing. Now, any other circumstance, any other character, or even if somebody with X-ray vision was doing this on purpose, he'd be a creep. He'd be a scumbag. But Clark didn't do it on purpose. He saw Lana with a towel, and she opens up her towel, and she's facing away from us. But Clark definitely saw her ass, right? Clark might have even seen her completely naked. I don't know, because he doesn't talk about it to anybody after that. Not even Pete. Well, no, because Pete doesn't know about Clark's powers. So how would that work? He can't talk to anybody about this. Poor Clark. And then we get a scene where Tina goes to visit Lana. And this surprised me, because I'm like, oh, I forgot that Tina was like Lana's friend. And they had been friends for a while. They even talk about like knowing each other before high school. And I like this. It adds even more reason for why I would have liked to have seen Tina in other episodes beforehand as Lana's friend, as just like a more normal person before we get more of her. She's talking to Lana about like, hey, if something happens to my mother, do you think your aunt would adopt me and we could be sisters? And like, she's very intense and very like, whoa. And you see Clark is walking down the street. He walks past a movie theater, and the movie theater on the wall has a poster for the Lost Boys. I was like, oh shit, that's cool. I don't think that's them trying to say that this takes place during the 80s when the Lost Boys was a thing. Maybe it's like retro night or something. I don't know. Clark sees Tina going into her mom's shop. So Clark takes Martha, his mother, to go in there. And that's where you see Tina's mother, who's dead. So Tina is pretending to be her dead mother. That's very weird. There's a moment where Martha, through the mirror, sees, she said it was $5,000 in cash with the bank rubber band around it. And it was so bizarre that it was just on the ground underneath like a dresser. And granted, Tina is a teenager. She would probably be clumsy or make a dumb mistake like that, right? She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. But for a second, I was wondering, like, is Tina about to attack Martha because she saw the money? She saw too much. She's now suspicious, and like, what am I going to do? She steals her car keys. And then when Martha leaves, Tina pretends to be Clark. She shapeshifts into Clark, driving the truck, tries to run over Martha as Clark. It's so bizarre, especially because Tom Welling had to like have this evil look on his face, like he really wanted to kill his mother. And then the real Clark Kent runs up, and Martha's reaction of like, Clark, you just tried to kill me. What the hell is going on here? Lana finds her mother's diary, and obviously that's going to mean something to her, because what does she want to do? She wants to know what her parents were like, especially her mother. Like, what was her mother like, right? So she starts to read it, and we don't know what it says, but the next scene you cut to her going up to her aunt and saying, you lied to me about my mother, and storms off. And especially during this rewatch, I want to appreciate the Lana Lang character more. I want to like her more. I don't want to find her annoying, because I had a conversation with one of my commenters who said that they don't like Lana and that they do find her annoying for like A through Z reasons. So many reasons. And this was the one time, the first time that I saw a scene with Lana where I thought, Oh, are you gonna annoy me? Because it was just so overdramatic. It was so just talk to your aunt. Just tell her what's going on here. Don't storm off and have your aunt confused on what the hell you're talking about. I get that this is a big deal. And when you find out later that she feels like her aunt lied to her about her mother, she told her that her mother was happy in Smallville, happy just with everything, being a cheerleader, only to read the diary and see that the mom didn't like being in Smallville, didn't like being a cheerleader. And so all of these things that Lana can relate to and connect to, it's overwhelming. So I get it. I do. And like I'm trying to sympathize with Lana here. And she's a teenager, so everything is going to be overdramatic. I also do understand that. Jonathan and Martha tell Clark about Tina, how she was born with this rare bone disease, and she wasn't going to live until when she was 3 years old. What do you know? Complete recovery. Clark puts that together of like, oh shit, that's when the meteor shower happened, so she's probably affected by that. Now they make a comment about how doctors did experimental like testing on her or whatever. I don't know if they were trying to say that the testing along with being exposed to kryptonite, that's what gave her powers, or did the doctors test kryptonite drugs on her? Like I don't know what to make of that. That just seemed really weird and even more sad for the Tina character if that was the case. We get this side plot that I actually appreciated. This like TMZ reporter goes up to Lex and he's blackmailing him. He's talking about how I dug up some old juvie records on you that was sort of thrown under the table, and it's talking about how Lex did some stuff when he was younger. They mention Club Zero, which I don't remember if we ever reveal that or talk about what happened with this club. What did Lex do? I don't remember. So that's interesting because Lex clearly had a reaction to that being brought up. Tina goes up to Lana at school. She brings up the whole, like, let's be sisters again, right? And like, hey, my mom's going to move to Metropolis for work, so I can live with you. That's cool, right? That's great. And Lana's kind of like, whoa, I'll talk to my aunt and we'll like figure this out. And Tina goes from like 0 to 100. She flips her shit. I get that like she's a little I guess unstable or unhinged, but it's like you didn't even give Lana a chance to turn you down. I could see if Lana turned you down, and even if so, I would understand Lana turning her down, but she didn't even turn you down yet, and you already got this angry. So angry. Because right before then, Clark was staring at Tina, like from across the hall. And I didn't realize what Tina was doing because she was just sort of like standing there in the hall. Only to see that she was standing there waiting for Lana to get out of class. Like, that's how kind of intense this girl is with Lana. Clark is able to, for the first time, focus his X-ray vision, use it to look inside of Tina's locker. And I am shocked that Tina had the bank money in her locker. Like, why? Why is that money not in your room or in, like, where you live? Why did you bring any of it to school? Like, especially as much as she brought. It looks like she has thousands of dollars, at least, in her locker. And she left it there because Clark seemingly told the cops. The cops must have gone to the school, found the money in her locker, because the cops go to her mother's shop. She has to pretend to be her mother, find out that the cops are looking for Tina, and she realizes that Clark was the one because she caught Clark staring at her locker. And there's a scene where Lana goes up to Clark in his barn, and I instantly knew that it wasn't the real Lana. There was something about Kristen Cruick's performance. She had just like this slight different tone to her face, mannerisms, the way she was looking at Clark. Like, she looked a little angry, not obviously angry for him to notice, but enough for me to go like, that's not really her. So I liked that. And they're going back and forth, sort of talking about it, and then Lana just kisses him. And to Clark's credit, because I don't know if I would have done this, he says, what about Whitney? And Lana says, screw Whitney. Don't worry about it. Kisses him again and turns into Tina. I wondered if this was Tina just wanting to kiss Clark just because, like, because she didn't have to kiss him. She could have just done what she was originally going to do, which is to push him out of the barn, like from far down. She thinks she's killing him. This might have been my favorite scene of the episode, where Lana, the real Lana, goes up to Chloe. And I don't think this is the original Smallville Torch newspaper office, because didn't the coach burn that down, or at least like horribly destroy it? Like, this is probably a different office. Yeah, I think it is. But it's funny that nobody's talking about the coach. The coach died. This horrible fire happened. No mention of it. But Lana is trying to make like small talk with Chloe. And Chloe at first is a total bitch, which I mentioned in earlier episodes that Chloe was a bitch to Lana, or at least making comments about Lana and like her presumption of Lana being this prissy cheerleader type. So she's making comments about how, like, oh, what are you doing here, blah, blah, blah. And Lana's not reacting to it. She's not getting upset or angry. She's just sort of, like, rolling along with it. And Chloe notices that and sort of backs off and even apologizes for being mean and sort of, like, says, okay, like, what's really going on? Lana asks for help because she's looking for the speech from her mother when her mother was in school. And I think this is the beginning of these two being friends. And I liked it. I did. I liked when Chloe realized that she was being mean. I liked that Chloe apologized. I like that Chloe's now potentially going to soften up to Lana and maybe realize that there is a little bit more to Lana than that. The scene where the reporter goes to Lex's mansion, he's collecting the $100,000. And Lex turns the table on this reporter so good. This was great. This was so great for the Lex character to establish that he's not somebody to fuck with. If you do try to fuck with Lex, he will get you back 100 times worse. When he tells this guy, hey, if you leave with that money, I will make one phone call and your identity is gone. Literally no proof that you exist will be out there. And I could change your identity to turn you into a murderer or a drug dealer. You'll lose your career, your life, everything. And the reporter freaks out and says, holy fuck, I'm sorry. Take the money back. What else do you want? And so not only did Lex do this to fuck with the guy, like, fuck you, basically, but he's going to use this guy because he takes him to this room, this empty room, that has the damaged car from the first episode, the car crash with Clark. And he wants this reporter to sort of solve the mystery of, like, what happened? How did Lex survive? He hasn't mentioned anything about Clark yet. I don't know how much he thinks it was Clark versus maybe Lex doesn't know if he himself is sort of powered up. I don't know. But I like this. We get a scene where Clark is talking to Lana at her house. And honestly, for a few seconds, I thought this was Tina. I would have sworn that Tina was pretending to be Clark to talk to Lana, especially when Clark asks her about if she's arguing with her aunt still. And Lana goes, how do you know about that? And Clark just says, oh, I'm very perceptive. But it wasn't Tina. It was, in fact, Clark, because the more they're talking, and the more Lana's telling him about her mom and the diary and getting to know your real parents, she even asks him about his real parents. And he has answers to where only Clark would know about this. He sort of hints at, like, oh, they're far, far away, and he looks out into the sky. He mentions about how, like, seeing through people, and you know that that's what he's going through with the x-ray. So I'm like, oh, that's not Tina. Like, what? Okay, interesting. And then there's a scene where Clark and Pete go to Tina's mother's shop. And through Clark's x-ray vision, he sees that there's a body hidden in the thing. So they go in there. And when they open the cabinet and Tina's dead mother falls out, I think this is hilarious, and I definitely watching Talkville with Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling, them making fun of Pete's reaction to seeing this dead body. Damn, who's that? In fact, I probably said it with way more enthusiasm than what Pete said. He was just kind of like, damn, who's that? Like, it's a dead body. And he's not freaking out. He's not like, oh my God, Clark, what's going on here? Clearly, Pete's seen some shit. And this is just a Tuesday for Pete, I guess. Tina then goes up to Whitney at the school, pretending to be Lana. And she's like making out with Whitney. Again, I'm wondering, like, does Tina just want to know what it's like for a few seconds to be Lana? Because she's like, oh, let me make out with her boyfriend. But then she asks for Whitney's jacket. Come to find out she wanted the jacket so that she could be Whitney later on. So that was smart. Lana is back at her parents' grave. I was wondering if we ever get to see her parents' grave again or see her talking to her parents' gravesite again. We do. It's here. And Whitney shows up, Tina, and he says some of the meanest things to her of like, your parents are dead. Just get over it. And Lana's like, what? Oh my God, that's mean, Whitney. And he goes to choke her. And she turns back into Tina, granted. And she's choking her and basically saying, you don't deserve your perfect life. I do. So it's established now that Tina wants Lana's life. She wants to take over Lana's life. But she chokes her for like a little bit. Lana passes out. And then she stops choking her. And it's like, well, if you wanted to kill Lana, why didn't you just kill her? Like, why didn't you continue choking her, strangling her? Why didn't you finish the job? Because then we cut to Lana being in like a tomb thing. And she's supposed to, I guess, suffocate in there. I wish they had a moment where Tina was choking her, but because she still like is friends with Lana or was friends with Lana, because Tina has some sort of humanity there, I wish she sort of stopped from choking her and said like, hey, I want to kill her to take over her life, but I can't physically do it. Like, I can't choke her with my own hands. It's too weird. It's too, So I'm going to put her body in this tomb and let her just suffocate. Like, that's easier. I don't have to see it. I don't have to be there. If you had that moment, it at least would have made more sense. Because Clark shows up. And Tina's pretending to be Whitney. Now, I don't know why she's not just pretending to be Lana. Because if she was pretending to be Lana, she could have just said to Clark, I'm fine. I'm Lana. I'm right here. What do you mean? But of course, Clark is like, where's Lana? He's super suspicious. Figures out that that's not really Whitney. The two of them have this fight. And I think it's really just Whitney because they wanted Clark to fight Tina but not fight her as a girl, because Clark punching Tina in the face would have been very weird. But so he throws Whitney like across the thing, he hits a tree, knocks him out, turns back into Tina. Clark finds Lana and saves her before she dies. There's a moment where Jonathan says, how could anybody do this? It's so weird. And I do like that Clark takes a moment to sympathize with Tina, or at least understand her by saying, hey, I get what it's like to want to be normal, and you know, you can't use your powers, you have this secret, and it's frustrating. I like that Clark saw the good, or the at least humanity in Tina. And as he's staring at Lana, I love that Martha caught that. She saw him looking at Lana. Martha says, you really like this girl, don't you? And Clark doesn't even answer, but Martha, she caught it. And she always catches it. The episode ends with Lana listening to her mother's speech. Because there was actually a funny moment where Chloe also arrives there. And Clark assumed that Chloe was there to check on him. But she goes, no, I'm actually here to talk to Lana. And so Chloe gave Lana a tape of her mom's speech. So the episode ends with Lana listening to the tape in her car. And Kristen's acting, her reaction to it. She's getting emotional, hearing her mom's voice, probably for the first time, at least her mom at that age. So I think Kristen saved that, right? Like Lana, for the people who don't find Lana interesting or don't care about all of this Lana side plot stuff, I think Kristen's acting is doing a good enough job to make me care and want to like see more with her. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of not only the episode X-Ray, but what do you think of Tina Greer as a character? Do you agree that she's one of the most underrated Freaks of the Weeks? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!